We are very pleased to take this time to honor Alice Dablow, Kathy and George Gentis for their dedication and faithful years of service given to the music program here at Christus Victor. At this point, I'd like to share a story with you, a story as old as time. In the beginning, Alice, the very beginning, Alice, along with her husband Herb, joined Christus Victor. Alice quickly noting there wasn't a choir singing praises, and she was not going to be a member of a church that didn't have a choir. So in approximately 1967, she created a junior choir. She directed this new choir, and when she was done, she sat back, smiled, and thought, this is good. So began the music ministry here at Christus Victor. Alice, being Alice, thought a junior choir was good, but her work was not yet done. Perhaps a senior choir was in order. So in 1970, recruiting 12 or so people, her next idea began to take shape. Thanks to the initial talents of her husband Herb, the Carlsons, Dick and Nancy, the Jameses, Sue and Tom, and a bit later the Asperheims, and a few others, the senior choir was formed. It was first directed by Alice and then by Sue James. If you attended the 10:45 service today, you would have noted some of these first choir members are still singing. Alice sat back, smiled, and thought, this is good. However, Alice was not done. The organ, or as it was lovingly referred to as that instrument, was a Sears Silvertone with less than the standard 88 keys. Myrtis McKinsick made that baby sing. And Myrtis is here. She's 100, isn't she? She was one of our first organists. She's over February. She'll be 100 in February, our first organist. However, even though Myrtis could make that baby sing, the Christus Victor was certainly deserving of a proper instrument. But how would we afford that purchase? Alice, never shying away from a challenge, began to hatch the idea of selling keys. Yep, with her at the helm, Alice began a key fundraiser. The new organ was purchased from another church. Alice sat back, smiled, and thought, this is good. Let's fast forward to 1979. Don Jennings, the choir director at that time, was leaving and the search was on to replace him. In walks the husband and wife team of George and Kathy. Rumor has it that Kathy was being interviewed and her husband thought he'd just kind of tag along in case they might be interested in hiring him as well. And so the Gentis reign begins. Alice sat back, smiled, and thought, this is good. The Gentises decided that they were going to further their education, telling Alice there was a need for them to step down. They wouldn't have the time to research, select, and basically coordinate the music for the choir. Alice, having none of that, offered to help pull up that slack until they completed their education, thus creating the music coordinator position. George and Kathy sat back, smiled, and thought, this is good. Time passed, and in 1993, Alice began thinking, why not a bell choir? Let's raise funds, giving the congregation an opportunity to buy a bell or part of a bell. The congregation jumped on her bell wagon, and a 25 key set of bells was purchased. Bonnie Sperling began directing the first bell choir. Alice sat back, smiled, thinking, this is good. Now, Alice and Herb, because they're old and they already told you that, were about to celebrate their 40th wedding anniversary. A ruby ring for Alice to commemorate the milestone was Herb's romantic thought. So they went shopping to find that perfect ring. Alice started thinking, those bells and the music they make should be enhanced. Herb, the money you're spending on one ring could be used to buy a whole octave of chimes, complementing the bells. Now everyone would have a ring. Alice said that, smiled, and thought, this is good. I understand she did get the ruby ring, though. It seems to me that Mrs. Alice Dablow has had her hand in this music ministry in some way, shape, or another for nigh on to 50 years. George and Kathy's passion for their music ministry here must have been very apparent to all they met and worked with. Musicians came from far and wide to join and share their talents here in this place. Cellos, violins, clarinets, oboes, flutes, guitars, and even a harp have graced our presence and decorated our services. Some of these fine musicians even became members and continue to share their talents to enhance Christus Victor's music ministry. Revelation Band was created around 2000 and has even the most conservative Lutheran tapping their foot, if not at all clapping to the beat. George and Kathy's love of travel and music led them to take Christus Victor's music ministry on the road. Under the direction of George and Kathy, this church choir, accompanied by our instrumentalists, along with others anxious to join us, have traveled far and wide to sing praises to our Lord and share the joy of our music. Some of the pictures you are enjoying are reminiscent and memories that some of us share. As I share some personal memories, because of their passion, I personally have seen places I have never dreamed of seeing. I have flown high above the skies of Copenhagen, yelling like a little girl to the amusement of locals. And by the way, Mrs. Jones, I was not alone. I have seen the Eiffel Tower, experienced the Moulin Rouge, and danced on a table. Or was it a chair in a Parisian cafe? Again, not alone, Mrs. Dablow. I have been scolded in Ireland. May I say, I have not done any of this alone. There were many guilty parties involved, and you all know who you are. It was Jan Speed, Linda Nickel. Yes, there was quite a few. Because of you and the opportunities you have offered, I have sung in cathedrals, sung and wept in the cemetery chapel. There were tiny churches in many European towns whose names I couldn't even pronounce, where we shared our repertoire of songs. We have sung in museums, on buses, and on a ship traveling down the fjords, in castles, on a street corner in Austria celebrating a milestone birthday. And yes, there may have been a wee bit of alcohol involved in that one. Although we did sing on street corners just because we could. We even sang in a cave. Good God, George, we sang in a cave.
Yes, we did.
I've seen the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in Salt Lake City, Utah, because of you. I have sung songs that at first scared me in their difficulty. Not a trained musician, only knowing notes went up and notes went down, rudimentary skills at best. However, with the time and patience of these two fine musicians, I grew to love to sing with confidence. Among many things, I know now what forte means, how and when to crescendo, when to breathe, when not to breathe, when legato is necessary, and at other times I sound too Lutheran, that tall vowels matter, and yes, Kathy, in some cases, music needs to dance. I know to savor the moment after a song is over, and not to move a muscle until George drops his hands. I know the Lenten season is even more meaningful as this choir sings its solemn cantata, that our Christmas season is brighter and merrier. and that our Easter morning celebration is even more joyous because of song. I've known the honor and the privilege of sending someone to eternal life with a rousing rendition of Saints or the soulful It Is Well With My Soul. I know the swell in my heart when George sings the Lord's Prayer. Yes, our music ministry here at Christus Victor is stellar, and all because of the talent, dedication, and faithful service you have all given your church, your friends, and your God. As Psalm 100 aptly states, make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. I know you are all appreciated. I know you are all loved. And I know you will all be missed. Know that you have served the Lord with gladness and joyful music. Well done, good and faithful servants. If you'll indulge me for just another minute. During our mini Christus Victor Chorale tours, traditionally the last night was a special night for dinner, and for many of us, or any of us who wanted to share a song or a story. Linda Zimmerman, Andy Bartola, and myself would always share a musical summary of the tour. Since this is the end of our longest tour, we thought it would be fitting to once again, on our last day together, summarize 39 years. Anne, is she up here?
Right there.
You see us?
A little further.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you imagine how we are reeling as we prepare to say God's
Alice, who chose this song?
I don't like it.
It's too hard.
All vowel and not so much E. Every place with ears out, as sections begin to count. We need help finding that note, please. We sing on Sundays and on our holidays. Good Friday cantatas we all do. Christmas and Easter, sunrise on Canaan and Easter. Love we share, you have no clue. You've been our mentors, our friends and teachers. Can't begin to say how you'll be missed. Godspeed, good wishes. Take our love with you. Want to say we're really pissed.
Just a reminder, after I'm done, it is open mic, so we really encourage you, even if you just have one little memory or something, or if you have a song, you gotta dance, we don't care. But please feel free to share it. Unlike Betty and several others here, I was not able to join the choir on any of their trips abroad. I was beginning to wonder if it was a plot, because trips are usually every 3 to 4 years, and the first one that was planned after I had joined choir was when my oldest daughter, Courtney, was looking at colleges, and I just could not justify a trip abroad. Then the next choir trip was when my youngest daughter, Carly, was looking at colleges. Yes, they're 3.5 years apart. So again, just couldn't work it in. The next, 3 years later, was when my oldest daughter, Courtney, was planning a wedding. So again, I said, no, can't do it. Well, you guessed it. 3 years later, my youngest daughter, Carly, was getting married, so couldn't do that one. Then I thought, okay, the next one we'll do. And the next one, Rich and I had just planned a trip to Europe, and then they were planning theirs the next year. So couldn't do that. I was beginning to think George didn't want me and Betty together on one trip. It'd be a little too much. Understandable. Exactly. Just kidding. Okay, a little serious. I just want to share a couple things to George, Kathleen, and Alice. It's kind of bittersweet, George. First one's for you. While I hate you leaving this position, I'm also very happy for you guys. And it'll be nice that you can travel and not have to be home on a Wednesday or be home on a Sunday. So don't ever feel bad about the decision you're making. It's right for you. Rich and I joined Christus Victor about 25 years ago. And I knew it would be a difficult transition, mainly for me. I had grown up and attended the same church since I was a child. And it was not only changing my church, but I was changing my denomination. So we settled on Christus Victor because we came here one time, and everybody, as you all know, was so wonderful that we thought, this is where we want to go. Rich had grown up Lutheran, so it wasn't a real rough transition for him. The girls were excited to be going to a church where their friends from school were at, so it was easy for them. For me, it was a little bit different. Then Andy Bartolo invited me to come to choir one night. I thought, okay, can't hurt. So I love to sing, so I figured, this could maybe be where I could fit. And I was right. As soon as I came, that first night, I knew I was home. Everybody was having such a great time doing what they love to do. So I've learned so much from George. He's a very subtle teacher, and he's pushed me sometimes beyond where I thought it could be pushed, but I learned all along the way. It's a true gift you have. Your teaching style. You know, your talents are, everyone knows, but unless you've sat and worked with George as a conductor, you really don't know how good he is. So, I love you, and I thank you. Kathleen. Okay. I've watched you play so many times and been completely awestruck by your God-given talents. I took piano when I was young, and I knew I would never be able to play the way I wanted to. I truly believe that some people play notes and other people play music, and you play music. It is so obvious the joy you experience when you're playing. I thank you for playing for both of my daughter's weddings. It's something I will always cherish. But beyond the music and the piano, I think what I want to share most is how much I love the person you are. You are absolutely, without a doubt, the sweetest person I know. I have seen your demonstration of your love and faith more times than I can remember. When you have been faced with diversity or a challenge, you put your faith right out in front and you let it lead the way. That has been an inspiration to me more than once. I feel so lucky to have you as a friend and hope we can share a lot in the future. Enjoy this time with George, relish every moment. No one deserves it more. You are a true gem, and I love you. Alice. Alice. She used to be my, right ear for many, many years, and then we let Barb's go in between.
George did that to us.
Yeah, but we did get out of the front row.
Yes, that was important.
Alice, I cannot imagine how many hours of work you put in each week on our music program. We live just a block away from church. I see her car turning in, turning out, turning onto Arlington Heights Road, weekly. All the time. Between researching music, picking out pieces, purchasing the selections, downloading the songs, lining up musicians, making copies, setting up and maintaining our filing system, making CDs, and Lord knows what else she did that I wasn't even aware of. I'm really not sure where you have time for anything else. But you've done a stellar job and should be very proud. Good job, my CB sister. Love you. Okay, so anybody is welcome to come up.
I have a story from one of our trips. One time we were in Ireland and we had sung during church and they had a little gathering afterwards, and there was actually an American woman who had married somebody from Ireland and she had moved there. And I guess she was just really, really lonely, and about halfway through the week that week, she prayed, she goes, God, I just need something from home. I'm so lonely here. I just need something American. And I guess that night she turned on the TV and there was this great American movie and she went, oh God, thank you. And she woke up the next day and she went to church and there were 50 Americans standing up in front of her singing. And I guess she looked up and went, all right, now you're just showing off. And the one thing about this choir is, it's not just a choir, it's a family. And it started out with this family, and this family, and this family, and then those people became family. But that wasn't good enough for us, because then we had to join our aunts and our uncles and our sisters and our brothers, and they became our family. Of course, then they brought friends, and they became even a bigger family. But even that wasn't good enough, because Mark Hastings came from Buffalo, New York, and happened to know the Hillsteads, who said, and he said, I'm looking for a church. Okay. And then George went to work one day, and there's the new violin and cello and the orchestra teacher, and you said, do you happen to know of a church? Yes. And our family got bigger and bigger and bigger, and all I have to say is, God, thanks for showing off.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sing this for you. I'm going to take your glasses off so I can't see you. Yep. that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe it's true, but I know I am who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our story ends, I know you have rewritten it by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring on a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by the skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better, and because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. This is why I don't wear glasses, because then I can't see anymore.
I've been a member of the Christus Victor Chancel Choir for 29 years, and I just remember we never canceled. I mean, we had snow, we had cold, we had more snow. We never canceled. But there was one time we canceled rehearsal. Anybody remember?
Jeffrey.
Game 7 of the 2016 World Series.
Well, there's a lot of people who don't know me, and I don't have any notes. I'm certainly not going to sing.
Hey.
Okay. I am Kathleen's oldest sister.
Oldest.
Thank you. I'm number 1. And we have number 5 here.
Yes.
So I came all the way to Houston to be with Kathleen. So being the oldest, I probably have the most stories. And I was privileged to go on 3 of their music trips with them. So I have a lot of stories about a lot of you. I remember Betty being asked to, keep it quiet.
More decorum.
Yeah, we needed more decorum. And I think in Dresden, I believe, you were telling a story and they asked us to keep it quiet. We had to get off the patio.
That was a candle story.
The candle store, yes. And I remember another concert that we went to, and we hadn't had anything to eat. And if anybody knows me, I'm not a drinker. And Linda, I believe Nancy's daughter Linda was sitting beside me. Yes, I see you.
Don't blame me for anything there.
And she kept distracting me, and they kept pouring wine in my glass. And I got on the bus that night and got on the microphone. Can I tell the story, Kathleen?
I don't think they're gonna let her not.
I have to now? Yeah, okay, all right. I'll tell the story. My husband had he was a cornet or trumpet player in the band when he was in high school a long time ago. And Kathleen, when she was in college?
High school.
High school, okay. When she was in high school, she wanted to learn how to play all the instruments she could. So she asked to borrow my husband's trumpet. And he said, of course, that's fine. Did you take it to college with you?
No.
No?
It was in the Rolfe High School band room.
Okay, well, anyway. About a couple years later, we were there for Christmas and at home, and Dad asked her, Kathleen, are you done with my trumpet? And she said, well, yeah, I'm done with it, but she said it needs a little bit of a repair. And he said, well, no, that's okay. I'll take it. It's not a big deal. I just wanted to keep it. And so a year later, we were there. And he said, Kathleen, if you're done with my trumpet, I'll go ahead and take it. And she said, well, okay. And she went up and got it and brought it down, and it was about this thick. I think maybe a truck ran over it or something. And she said, but I'll get it fixed. And he said, Kathleen, there is no fix to this thing. So he said, later on, he said, I wish I had kept that because you won't believe that. No, you do not believe that. But anyway, we really hesitated about going on the trips. And one time we were in Chicago. And Kathleen said to my husband, Don, I would really like to have my sister go with us and just really, and we went with you then, and the first of 3 trips, and we met so many wonderful people. Of course, we knew the Davlos, because they're part of the family, and we just met so many wonderful people, and I have been coming to Chicago for, oh my goodness, 50, 40 years, I don't know. And met so many of the people here in the church, and you're going to have a tough time, girl. Well, anyway.
Thank you.
Well, I have nothing prepared either, but it's never stopped me. And I know very few people here, so I thought that I would share a couple of things being next to Kathleen. She was 4 years older than I was, and I was a musician also, but I was a very lazy musician. And Kathleen had gone out, yeah, you're nodding, I know. Kathleen had gone off to college, but she always accompanied me, and she, as you well know, can look at a piece of music and make the notes music. And so she always accompanied me. So she would come home from the weekend, and I had contests that weekend, and I started memorizing my solo about maybe 4 or 5 hours before she got there. I wasn't well prepared, but we went in, and Kathleen was the type of person that would sit down at the piano and had kind of the sixth sense when I'm standing there and kind of flailing around with a few notes, and the judge is kind of looking at me like, okay, I'm going to start marking 1, 2, 3. And she would start playing so loud, she would drown me out. And she would drown me out until she saw that look on my face going, oh yeah, now I know where I'm at. And I would always get a 1 because the judge would say, your accompanist was wonderful, but she drowned you out, so I can't account for it, I can't lower your score because she was too loud. Excellent. That's the kind of accompanist she was. That's the kind of sister she was. I want to tell you about another time when I was in Ames, and for some reason, the certain Democratic Party that my husband was affiliated with decided they were going to do a talent show. And if you ever want to do a talent show, don't look for a group of Democrats in a room, because you're not going to find a whole lot of talent in a local Democratic group. So, there were about 6 of us, okay, that were supposed to put this whole talent show on. So I knew from my theater experience, you start out with a wow number, and then the second number, they kind of let you slide a little bit, but then you got to have the ringer come in for your third number, get your audience back. I had a ringer. The guy was awesome. And he calls me about 11 o'clock the morning of the show and goes, Jay, I don't think I'm going to sing. So my ringer was gone. He had laryngitis. So I called my sister, my brother-in-law, and I said, can you guys tell me what to do? I've lost my ringer here. And in about 45 minutes, they had checked to see if they could take a flight from Chicago to Des Moines, couldn't get that arranged, so they grabbed some music on the road and called me saying, what do you want George to sing? And I said, well, I've always loved stuff from Phantom of the Opera. If he could do, that song would be great, And so he's practicing on the way driving to Ames. The show started at 7 o'clock. They were there at 7:15, went on about 25 after 7. And I wish you could have seen the audience, because they were used to our local Ames talent. And then Kathleen and George got up, and he opened his mouth, and everybody went, that's just my sister and my brother-in-law, no big deal, no big deal. So I just wanted to share a couple of things. I know you guys are family, but we're blood family, and I couldn't be more proud.
I'm going to continue the family theme here. I'm Jerry, George's brother, and just one story. I'm remembering, keeping in mind that this is about the man who's not here in person, in body anyway. I'm thinking 12, 13, I don't remember exactly, but somewhere in the mid to early 2000s. As I heard it told by that lady there, our mother, that our dad had said around Easter, well, aren't some of the kids coming out for Easter? Wouldn't they come out to Arizona? It'd be lovely weather, better than Chicago or Ohio or Central Illinois. And she says, well, that would be tough. Our sister will be cantering that morning at her church service. Jerry will be involved at Chatsworth, helping lead worship there. And George and Kathy are playing, singing in the choir and playing music for their church. And it's Easter. They're all busy at church. And he said, And she says, that is who we raised. That is who we raised. And isn't it strange? And isn't it kind of wonderful?
Yeah.
So, part of ministry that you've been, you had a chance to see some of mine. I haven't heard as much of our sister cantering as I would like, but this is part of the heritage. And I give our thanks this morning to this lady, Joanne, and to our father, Elmo.
I'm Bill, a friend of Alice, George, and Kathy. I thank God that God directed me to come to this church because I wouldn't be part of this family.
Closer to the mic, Bill.
And right now my heart is, and mind is full, but I'm probably going to forget half the things I want to tell you. It's probably just as well to go on forever. But there's things I do remember that make me love them. As a family member, you know, you guys helped me get through some of the hardest times of my life. And I remember right after that, Alice invited me to the choir annual dinner in September. I wasn't a member of the choir, and she presented me with a little wooden bell music box. It was Jesus Loves Me, that's what played on that. And that's what they sang for King. And then, not long after that, a few weeks, George comes up there very nonchalantly and says, he didn't ask me to join the choir, he just says, why'd you join us on Wednesday night? My first thought was, maybe they go on Wednesday night and we have dinner together, you know. He knows I can't read music. And a lot of times he'll ask me, I'm singing between the first and second tenor. He said, what are you going to sing, Bill? And I'll say stereo. Because I sing what I hear. And if I'm near sopranos, I'm probably singing in unison with them. But anyhow, George knew that I needed something in my life. I know that's why he did it, George. And of course, Kathy opens her house to me, and it made me feel like a family from way back, even earlier, you know, when we first joined the church. And so I feel that I've been very blessed to be part of what we all call family here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know we could probably be here all afternoon because everyone has a story or a remembrance, but we are going to move it along a little bit because we do have a few other things we want to present and say right now. So first, I want to thank you all for coming. You know, when we first planned this, we were like, well, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 people. And then when we really started, well, just choir. Well, I think we're at about 150, maybe 155. So I think that's a testament to who we're presenting. Oh, sorry. Most people can hear me. It's not a problem anymore. So I want to thank you all for coming out for this celebration, but I also want to acknowledge the committee that worked on doing this. It wasn't just me and Betty, not by a long shot. So if you did anything for a part of this, would you please stand up? Come on, come on. Team effort. Everyone volunteered quickly. What can I do? Where do you need me? So it worked out great. George, Kathleen, and Alice, would you come up, please? Oh, and thank you. Also, the fabulous accompaniment of Stephen Newell.
Whoa. Yes, thank you.
Okay, George, Kathleen, and Alice. Obviously, we wanted to give you a gift on behalf of, and thank you for all the wonderful work you've done here. And we discussed, Betty and I kind of sat and we discussed several different ideas on what we could get you for all these years of service. And it was not an easy decision. Nothing can really express the appreciation and gratitude we have for all your efforts and talents. So several options were discussed. We thought, well, a traditional plaque. And then we're like, I'm sure, especially George and Kathleen, after 40 years in the school system, they have multitudes of plaques. So then we thought, well, how about a nice vase?
Something to dust.
Yeah, right. And then we thought, no, I've been to their house, they don't need vases. And then we thought, oh, crystal. Well, if anybody has been to George and Kathleen's house, they don't need crystal. So we didn't want something that you just put on a wall where you'd have to dust. We wanted something that you could kind of carry along with you, not all the time, but sometimes. So, and we also want to make sure you don't forget us, and this would make that easy. So I'm going to ask George if you would open yours first. Sorry.
That's documented. Got a big company.
Ooh.
They are sterling silver cufflinks with 2 notes on them.
16 notes.
And as you can tell, we knew that George still wears rings.
Thank you.
Okay, and Ashley and ladies, I'm going to let you both open yours kind of at the same time.
Arthritic fingers.
Sorry. There. For Kathleen, we got her a Pandora bracelet with a treble clef on it. And Alice, we got the treble clef on a necklace. Okay.
Come out from behind the podium for better photo op.
Sure.
Somebody conduct them, please. Yeah.
Thank you. You're much better.
I just have one story.
I'm sorry. We are going to give each of you now a chance if you want to have any last comments. I'm sorry. And Alice, I'll return.
I do it anyhow.
I
I'm still in control. I just have to say that George and Kathy, George, and I think someone mentioned this before, is such a consummate teacher and a positive teacher. Because he would say to us, that was really very good, but I think we can do better. And Kathleen, you never gave up on us. You said, we can do this, but I think we proved to you one time that there was a song that had clapping and singing at the same time. She finally gave up. God love you guys.
This is a little dangerous, but I'm going to try. So I was 29 when I interviewed, just barely, just a month after my 29th birthday. And it wasn't my interview, as we have said earlier. Kathleen was the one that was applying for the organist position, and I just tagged along. And then at the meeting, it was discussed that there really was a need for a choir director as well. And so in November of 1978, we came to an agreement about what that service would look like. And we started on 39 years ago today, January 7th of 1979. Little did I know, as Kath said in her message this morning, Little did I know that this was not a 2 to 3 to 4 year thing until she got a teaching position. And then we would have time to raise a son and to do our teaching positions that we had in the public schools in District 54 and 211. And that would be a pretty full-time job. But as she said, and she said it so well, that was a job for a little while, but then very soon it became a blessing. And you don't give up blessings. You enjoy them. You find out how you can take that blessing and in turn be a blessing to others. And that was our goal. It was also my goal. My goal as a teacher was to, in a public school system, to be able to share my faith in a way that was not overt or too much on my sleeve, but yet I could show that there were students that needed a parent figure or needed music or needed to have something perhaps a little less competitive for them to be successful at that would then lead them to a more successful life. I've had many, many students who have communicated with me about how that touched them and how they were able to gain confidence to go about the rest of their lives, because as a performer in a group, in an ensemble where they weren't a soloist, they were not the center of attention, but part of a group that performed with certain standards for what happened on stage and what happened backstage and what happened in the performance and what standards we were going to sing by or play by, that was how we led our life. And it allowed us to become better people, more confident, and more successful after high school. That, in a sense, is what we have tried to share here too, is that God, as Kath was saying this morning, has gifted us with individual talents and skills intended to be in His service. Not for our own good, not for our own enjoyment so much, but to be in an opportunity to share those gifts in His service. There may have been little details along the way that would have disguised that motivation, but I think that that was always what we were hoping and planning and reaching out to do. And when we had the opportunity in District 54 and 211 to find some partners in our music craft who we respected as teachers and as human beings who also wanted to reach out and to touch young people with a gift of confidence through music, that those people we encouraged to come to Christus Victor. And so we have built a great team, and those team members are in this room. And we are a team. It isn't just about Kath and me and Alice. It is about the larger team that you saw on full display this morning. And we love all of you. We will never forget this time in our life as we move to other roles here at Christus Victor and elsewhere with travel that we intend to do. So we love you. We thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for this day and for this tribute. And we thank all of you as individuals for being the best friends we could have, faith partners in this life. Thank you.
Good-looking, blue-eyed blonde she mentioned earlier. I will mention that this summer we're going to celebrate our 59th wedding anniversary. Anyway, you're wondering where she got that fancy room to do all of her work. Well, let me tell you, that was our 4th bedroom in the house we built out in Schaumburg, and it was my room. I had all kinds of awards from American Airlines for setting speed records around the world, and all of a sudden I called it my room, my trophy room. And all of a sudden, a big table appeared up there. What the hell is this all about? Now she's got her own computer up there. I'm not allowed to be on that computer. And so now she's spending more time up there finding all these things to do. And it was wonderful, it really was. But how do I get her to come down the stairs? It's dinner time. We call it supper in Minnesota. So I got to thinking about it, and if you've been in our house, you know you go up about 7 stairs, then you turn this way, a 90-degree turn. And if you just stand at that first level, there's a ledge there with a hallway that goes into my room. I found about later in the afternoon, things are getting dark. She's still up there typing away. I found that if I walked up those first steps and put a glass of wine, she got the word, and she come down.
I'm not often a person of few words, but I will try in this case. I think the greatest gift that a person can receive is one of the greatest gifts, certainly, is to have parents that give you an example of love and what love looks like and what love sounds like and what love is in actual practice, year after year, day after day, hardship after hardship, joy after joy, celebration after celebration. And Warren Buffett once said that the greatest wealth is measured by the number of people that love you, and to some extent the quality of those people. I mean, if the people that love you are all in jail, you might want to look at that. But, from the earliest of age, from my first conscious memory, I have been keenly aware that my lovely parents were loved by a great number of people, and that the richness and the quality and the specialness of those people and the bond that those people had was very, very unique. And that the glue that held those people together was a faith in God. And that bond of faith is what brings us here, and that bond of faith is what feeds the spirit in the music and your ministry. And I thank you so much for the example that you have set, and I can't tell you how proud it makes a son to stand here in a room full of this group of people, and to know that they're all here for you, and to hear the things that are saying. You cannot experience a much prouder moment than this right here. So cheers to you. Now, I know that their ministry is not a thing that's going to end. They will continue to find ways to serve, and so in a lot of ways that won't change. But to some degree, it will. Some things will change, and Stephen has we have a song that's brief little tune that I think might sum up a lot of what we're feeling today. Sometimes, not often enough, we reflect upon the good things, and those thoughts always center around those we love. And I think about those people who mean so much to me, and for so many years it made me so very happy, and I count the times I have forgotten to say thank you. And just how much I love them. Cheers.
Okay, my Von Victor farewell singers, if you will please set up. While our group is setting up, just to let you know, if you haven't had a chance to sign those pillows, please do so. And also the poinsettias on the table, figure out who has the closest next birthday and feel free to take that home.
Ready? Ready? Turn this off?
Yes.
How do you do it?
Group one.
Turn that off and turn the light on.
Okay, over here.
Jerry, maybe the computer. And the light
everyone. Ready?
There's a sad sort of clanging from the clock in the hall, and the bells on the altar too. And back in the nursery, an absurd little bird is popping out to say boo hoo, boo hoo, boo hoo. Regretfully they tell us, but firmly they compel us to say farewell to you. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. We hate you go and leave us here tonight. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu, 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 to you and you and you. So long, farewell, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. We'd like you to stay and sing with you again. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodnight. We leave and cry and say our sad goodnight. We're sad to say we cannot tell a lie. We wish you all could say, but that's not right. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu. And now you leave and take our love with you.
Thank you, everyone, and on behalf of Christus Victor and its council, we bid you a fond and a very heartfelt farewell. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I just have one thing I need to say.
Oh, all right.
I heard you say, Alice, that you're still in control. You know, we need a box in the